everybody, welcome back to my channel. This video is in a 4-part series on my channel this month about applying to university to study medicine, and in this series I'm going to be touching on work experience and volunteering, extracurriculars, interviews and personal statements. Just a bit of background, I applied through UCAS last year as an undergraduate and I applied to the universities of Cambridge, Edinburgh, Exeter and Cardiff. I received interviews at Cambridge, Exeter and Cardiff, and I got offers from all 4 of my universities, and really excitingly I'm starting my first term at the University of Cambridge studying medicine very soon. I really hope you find this video helpful. I've really tried to make these videos as informative and useful as possible, and yeah, I really hope you enjoy this video and stay tuned for the next episode. Today I'm going to be talking about personal statements, and as you can see I'm running out of places to film these medicine videos. I want each one to be in a different location, but I've resorted to sitting on the floor, so you can tell I'm struggling. But in this video I'm going to be talking about what a personal statement actually is and the basic framework of a personal statement, so like what to include, including what my personal statement framework was, and then skills that are generally looked for in a medicine personal statement, advice for writing a medicine personal statement, and then finally resources that I found quite helpful when writing my own personal statement. How many times can I also say personal statement? And there are, as you can tell, 5 parts to this video, so it's going to be quite a long one, but I really hope that you find this really useful. So yeah, let's get on into the video. I'm going to start off by talking about what a personal statement actually is and what it's used for, all that kind of stuff. So in MedSoc, I summarised a personal statement as a short essay, so up to 4,000 characters, and I think it's 42 lines. Don't quote me on that, but I know it's 4,000 characters. That is basically summarising yourself and telling universities why you are the perfect candidate for that degree, which in this case is medicine. Your personal statement is part of your UCAS application, and the way in which universities use it really can differ, especially like the points at which universities use your personal statement. So some will use it to decide whether you get an interview, some will barely even use your personal statement in any of their decision making. Other universities may use it just to decide between like a couple of candidates which one gets an offer after the interview stage. So like it really differs based on the university. So if you want to know how your university choices use personal statements, it probably says it on their website in like their application process, so it's worth looking into that. Personally, for my universities, Cambridge I think used a personal statement in like the decision making process for interviews, and then also because they give offers like holistically, they look at all parts of your application, which is actually really good. Cardiff, I don't even know if they even looked at my personal statement, to be honest. I think they decided interviews based on GCSEs, so it literally didn't even matter, and then they based offers on interviews, so I don't even know if they even used my personal statement. Exeter, I can't really remember, but maybe they did use it, I literally can't remember. And Edinburgh I know did weight my personal statement, like they give you a score on it. Moving on to the basic framework of a personal statement. The first thing that you need to have is an introduction, obviously, and this is generally where most people explain why they want to do medicine and like their motivation for studying medicine, and this is done in a variety of different ways. A lot of people go down the route of personal experiences. That is really quite common, like if there's a experience that you've had that's been like super life-changing and has made you want to go into medicine, that's where most people generally put it in. Don't kind of make one up for the sake of it, just explain really honestly why you want to study medicine, and I feel like it's quite good in the introduction because it kind of just sets the scene a little bit and they understand why you're actually even applying for this degree. Next thing you need to include in your personal statement is work experience and volunteering. This is quite a large chunk of your personal statement, And I do have a video already out about work experience volunteering, so if you'd like some more information about that, you can click the link in the description, or if I remember I'll put it in the information cards so that you can go and watch that video if you're interested and want to know more. As well as the next thing, which is extracurriculars, and I also once again have a video about these, so if you'd like more information on those, same thing, description or information cards. Generally extracurriculars for medicine personal statements should be a bit maybe more academic or roles of responsibility based instead of really just hobbies, but watch the video if you want further detail into that. And finally, you've got your conclusion, and this is generally really short, partly because you want something like short and snappy and like punchy to leave a lasting impression on the reader, but also because you genuinely do not have enough characters to write like an extensive conclusion. And if you do, then maybe think about going into more detail. And what you want to do in your conclusion is to summarize your personal statement, so like round it off, but at the same time add some new information in, or add something new in. Don't just repeat things that you've said previously. So I think a good way to go is kind of in some way linking your conclusion to your introduction. I think it really like does round your personal statement off really nicely, because there's like a continuity in your personal statement and like a flow. I personally wrote in my introduction about my interactions with doctors because of the condition that I have, and then I finished it off in my conclusion with how my experience with doctors and how doctors have helped me has like inspired me to help other people. I also added more stuff about how medicine is like an ever-developing field, and just tried to add something new in as well, and added some like extra qualities that I apparently have. In my own personal statement, my basic framework was that I had my introduction, which had motivation for studying medicine. Then I had a paragraph about work experience. Then I had a paragraph about volunteering. Then I had a paragraph about basically academic stuff for medicine, so like medical courses, books, all that kind of stuff. Then I had my kind of extracurricular paragraph with like roles of responsibility, my one hobby that I listed, and stuff like that. And then lastly I had my conclusion. So that's how I did my personal statement. You don't have to do it exactly the same as me, it really doesn't matter. There are loads of different ways that you can structure your personal statement. Just find a way that suits what you've written. In terms of what skills are looked for in medicine personal statements, I literally have a list on my little plan which I am going to read off. Here we go. Communication, interpersonal skills, teamwork, leadership, responsibility, motivation for studying medicine, as I already mentioned, self-reflection, academic strength, passion for learning, empathy, time management, resilience, critical thinking and problem solving, good work-life balance, ethical awareness. So there's quite a lot on there, and I wouldn't say that you need to include examples of every single one of these because your personal statement simply is not long enough for you to do that, but just pick a good amount of these to mention. On your university website, it might actually mention which qualities they really want you to display in your personal statement. So I know that on Oxford's website they had a list, and a couple of other unis I think have them too, so just look around your university website and try and find out as much information as you can for your particular universities that you're applying to, but that's just like a general massive list of things. Yeah, I'm now going to move on to the longest section of this video, which is going to be advice for writing your personal statement and just general advice with regards to personal statements. So I thought that I would fittingly start this off by talking about the fact that you need to provide support for all the skills that you claim to have. So all those skills that I listed, you can't just say like, I have teamwork skills and I have, I don't know, leadership skills or whatever. You need to show why exactly you have the skills that you say you have and how you've gained them and what relevance these skills actually have to your application. So you need to kind of intertwine all these skills within things that you say you've done, things that you say you've seen, all that kind of stuff. It needs to just be a nice like mesh, that's not the word I'm looking for, but like a nice cake batter, let's put it that way. Don't just have like chunks in your personal statement. Try and have a bit of a flow between things. So relate certain activities together, relate skills to your extracurriculars or your work experience or volunteering. And as I've said in previous videos in this medicine series, do not just list things. You need to explain further, like in more detail, what you've learnt from experiences, what skills you've gained from them or demonstrated by doing these things, and how they're relevant to medicine and how they're relevant to becoming a doctor, i.e. how these skills that you've gained or demonstrated are going to help you in the future, either as a medical student or eventually as a doctor. And this is really important, this whole like linking skills and explaining further, because you're applying for this course and at the end of the day, through your personal statement, the admissions tutors just want to see whether you're actually suitable for their course. So you may think that you're suitable for medicine, but if you can't show it, then they're not gonna want to admit you. Next thing is to make it personal, and I mean, shock horror, it's a personal statement. So don't just make like general swooping statements. Really try to go into depth more about your own personal experiences and your thoughts and your opinions, because they want to know more about you as a person. They don't just want to read things that they've seen 1,000 times previously. So really try to like put an essence of you into everything that you write. That's so cringy, but like true. Another thing is to be genuine on your personal statement. So don't make it sound completely like it wasn't written by you. Don't kind of use all these massive words if you wouldn't use them normally. Obviously you want to sound not like you're having an everyday conversation, but just try to make it sound like it was actually written by you to some degree, and don't completely sugarcoat things, don't lie about things. Just try to be as genuine as possible on it, because if they have your personal statement with them at interview, they're going to see right through you if you're completely different in real life to what you sound like on your personal statement. And also, on that note, don't plagiarize it, don't copy other people's personal statements. Like, I know it's kind of sometimes tempting, and for me a big worry was because I had read so many other people's personal statements, things like stick in my head. Certain ways of saying things or phrases really stay in my subconscious mind. For example, this series is called A Medicine Series by Magda. However, Eve's law series is called A Law Series by Eve. The thing is, I didn't actually want to copy her. Like, the title subconsciously stuck in my head and I called this series A Medicine Series by Magda, not actually realising that it was the exact same. So in every single description box there was a credit to Eve Cornwell. That's what I kind of mean, and I was really scared with my personal statement that I was unintentionally copying other people's without realising it. But genuinely don't copy other people's, because it might flag up on UCAS as plagiarised. You're going to ruin all your applications. So like, take inspiration from other people's personal statements by all means, but don't downright copy them. This next point is kind of similar to what I've previously said, but explain everything in as much detail as the character limit will allow you to. So don't just say like, I gained communication skills. Say what exactly you did to gain those communication skills. Say how that thing that you did made you get those communication skills, and just go into as much specific detail as possible, because it's all about the detail, people. I think there's a good balance to be found between detail and character limit. So obviously not every single thing that you write on your personal statement can be written about in more detail, because you just don't have enough characters. I think you need to find the right mix of statements that you've kind of left a bit open and statements that you've really gone in on and really fully explained, which is what I tried to do. Because, for example, I read The New Scientist, kept me updated on current health affairs, and then I explained further that I was interested in the antibiotic resistance and cancer therapy thing. But another example that I wrote was a social action project for disabled children reinforced my ability to communicate, blah blah blah. So that's kind of two examples of where I went into much further detail, and one where I just kind of left it as a bit of a statement without explaining further. Obviously you don't want to just have like a massive list of things, because it is quality over quantity, but at the same time you don't just want to have like 2 things that you've done on your personal statement. There's once again a balance to strike between how much you elaborate on something. For example, with, I don't know, volunteering, I said that I volunteered weekly, and then later on I mentioned how I've been doing it over the past year, but you don't really need to, for example, mention like the day that you did it on and the time that you did it on. Like details like that can be omitted. You don't need to include every little thing, because you're not going to have space for it, and you're going to miss out other things that are probably more important than like what time you did your volunteering at. And then also another example with volunteering, yes, you want to talk about specifics, so talk about a specific resident that you talked to or did a lot with, but then don't go overboard on it, and like don't spend a whole paragraph explaining like what exactly you did with this resident. Like, I played this game, this game, this game, this game, I talked about this, 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 this. Be really selective about what you include and try to pick the most relevant things, and really think about what's going to be the most powerful in your personal statement and mention that instead of all the really waffly bits which you don't really need. And realistically, if they want to know more about a certain aspect in your personal statement, they will ask you about it at interview if they do that kind of personal statement thing. For me, I was grilled on my work experience and volunteering, because obviously I can't write everything in my personal statement, so they kind of wanted me to elaborate further. My next point is about trying to make it as well written as you possibly can, and I have a few sub points in this section, so here we go. First thing is to try to make your paragraphs flow. So what I like to do with my paragraphs in like essays or my personal statement is link the end of one paragraph to the start of the next in some way, and if you can't, then that's fine, but try and at least have them in some logical order that flows, because there's nothing worse than like a chunky bitty personal statement that you don't know where that section came from, but like it's there. Next thing is variation. So variate your vocabulary. The thesaurus was my favorite website when I was writing my personal statement, because literally just synonyms. Don't write the same word or the same phrase over and over and over again, because it will get so boring. Try and use different vocabulary for saying the same thing, you know? And also variate your punctuation, because I literally wrote on here, it will make your personal statement more refreshing. Lol. Just try and use like different punctuations, make it exciting. So I had a colon in mine, I had little dashes, whatever they're called, like lots of different fun things. Maybe I had a semicolon in there as well, who knows. And also finally, on the variation side of things, try to variate your sentence lengths. So don't just have a load of long sentences, try and like have some longer, some shorter, just to make it like easier and a bit more interesting to read through. Get that terminology in, and by that terminology I mean passion, fascination, enthusiasm, all those kind of words that will enliven your personal statement. Enliven's a good one, but at the same time avoid cliches like the plague, because genuinely it's going to be so cringy when you read it back and when the admissions tutor reads it, because they will have seen that phrase used about 50 billion times, and number one, you're wasting your characters on something that they've seen 50 billion times. Number two, it's just cringy for everyone involved, so just don't do it. Another thing is to make sure that your paragraphing makes sense. Have things grouped together that actually belong together. So for example, work experience, volunteering, books that you've read, or extra reading that you've done, like just group it all together in a way that makes sense in your personal statement based on what you've included, so that you're not just kind of putting bits of things here and then carrying on that bit in another paragraph. And finally, add some descriptive words. So if you have the characters, just add a few extra adjectives in there. Don't overdo it. Just having some like extra words will make it a bit more interesting to read, and it will make it sound better again as a whole when you read it through, so it's not just like plain sentences, there's a bit more to it. My next point is that if it's written in your reference, don't put it in your personal statement, because both of those documents should be read by the university if they even read your personal statement. But realistically, you're wasting your characters if you're writing about something that they've already put in your personal statement. Not in your personal statement, in your reference. So you can even like get together with your reference writer and kind of discuss what they're going to put in your reference and what you're going to put in your personal statement, and that way you can really maximize the amount of information that you can get into your application. So they were already talking about my subjects in my reference. I got recommended multiple times to like write about my subjects in my personal statement, and I just like refused to do it. I didn't want to do it because there was no point in my brain to write about how I do biology, chemistry, maths when it already says in my reference that I do biology, chemistry, maths, and it says on my UCAS that I do biology, chemistry, maths. Like, there was no point to me in putting that in my personal statement, so I didn't put it in because it was going to waste characters that I needed for other bits of my personal statement. In terms of drafts, I'd say most people write a good few drafts. I wrote 10. Which is a bit excessive, and with each draft leave it for a couple of days and then come back to it and reread it with a fresh mind, because that way you can really spot where the mistakes are, which you might not spot right after you've written it because you've just written it, you know, and you can really see after a few days where it does not sound very good at all and doesn't flow and doesn't maybe make as much sense as you thought it did whilst you were writing it. On the topic of mistakes, get other people to read through your personal statement and look out for spelling mistakes, grammar mistakes, punctuation mistakes, and just general like issues with your personal statement, because it's really so useful to have someone else's perspective on it as well. And obviously they haven't written it, so they can see which bits really do not make sense, even though like you know what you're going on about because you've written it. Other people may not find it as clear because they don't know what you meant when you were writing it. But be really careful about how many people you give it to, because you are going to get so much conflicting information if you give it to too many people, and you are not going to know what to do with it, because people will say this bit's good and then other people will say no it's not, and you'll be like, who's right? It's your personal statement at the end of the day. If you really do not agree with something and you can rationalize why you do not agree with it and why you're not going to do it, then don't do it. But at the same time, don't completely disregard someone's opinion just because it's not your own. Really think about it. A really good tip is to write your personal statement as actively as you can, and I read this in a book which I'm going to get onto later on. Basically, the passive voice, which I only know about from Latin, is X was wide. So not like, I don't know, Matilda did Y to X. It's X was wide by Matilda or whatever. So you want to really limit the amount of X was wide sentences, because you want to make it as active and enthusiastic as possible. So you want to get more of the I did sentences in. That's a really bad explanation, but I hope that you kind of get what I'm trying to get at. I alternated between these two types of sentence in my personal statement. I would say that there is a large emphasis on the passive side of things in mine, which I think I have a decent balance. It's not too much. Whilst looking at it now, it doesn't look as bad as I thought it was. Another thing to get across in your personal statement is that you have an understanding of a career in medicine, and that you've researched the realities of being a doctor, and you're not just kind of going into this with rose-tinted glasses. You need to recognise that it isn't all that easy and that there are challenges, and then try to demonstrate how your personal qualities or skills make you suited to overcome these challenges. Just show that you are realistic about your expectations of a career in medicine. A little quick point is not to be scared to make changes, and I was really apprehensive when I was writing mine about changing things. I was like, oh no, is this gonna make it sound even worse? Like, can I remove this bit? Maybe I shouldn't. But in the end, I was changing my personal statement the night before I sent it off. I was really concerned that it just wasn't gonna sound good, but like, it's fine, clearly. And finally, relating personal statements to interviews. If you write about it on your personal statement, make sure that you actually know it and that you've actually done it. So have like further talking points about certain things beyond what you've written on your personal statement, just in case they ask you about it at an interview. So for your work experience, have a diary, have a log, read through it, make sure that there's more detail that you can go into. Same for volunteering, same for any books you've read, make sure that you know the books. The last section of this video is just useful resources, and I have basically two main ones. The first one is the most useful thing. This saved my personal statement, and it is the ISC medical, I think it's called Write the Perfect Personal Statement, or How to Write the Perfect Personal Statement, something along those lines. But it is so useful. Genuinely, if you're going to get anything to help you write your personal statement, get this book, because basically at the start it has like general tips, obviously, and it also has stuff that you need to include and kind of information about how to include it. So it has example paragraphs, for example, about volunteering or work experience, and it really explains based on these paragraphs what's good to put in a paragraph about work experience and what you shouldn't put in there. And it has kind of details about whole personal statements, so explanations about what's good, what could be better. It has so many example personal statements that you don't even need to look online for some, and it actually has information on there about which universities each personal statement was successful for, so you can see which personal statements were successful for the universities that you want to apply to, so you can get a general gist of what they're looking for specifically. And if that wasn't enough, there's also a useful word bank at the back with words that are apparently really like impressive or really useful to have in your personal statement, and there's a bunch of like good words, so you can find some synonyms in there as well if you're struggling to think of how to write something. And the other thing you can obviously do is go on the internet. I mean, there's so many websites about how to write a personal statement, what to include in your personal statement, skills you need in your personal statement. As I mentioned before, Oxford have like a personal statement structure example, I think. I'll try and find it actually. They have sections of a personal statement written and then dissecting it and talking about what's good, talking about what's not so good, and especially because this is on the Oxford website, like it's on the Oxford website, so it's really useful because it's coming from admissions tutors. That is pretty much all I have to say for this video. So if you found this video helpful or you enjoyed it, then be sure to give it a thumbs up, and you can also share it with anyone else you know who is writing a medicine personal statement, because we like helping people out. Yay! And you can also subscribe to my channel for more videos. There is one video left in this medicine series, which is the interview video, which is going to be the longest, hopefully most informative and detailed in-depth video that there is in this series, so look out for that one. It's coming very soon. And yeah, you can also follow my social medias. Actually, the handles are always in the description, but can I speak? They're in the description box, okay? Thank you very much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!